Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Greetings, goal scorers. Congratulations, because you are all set to grab a bagful today. You can't lose because you've landed right in the scoring zone here at Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Now, in today's episode, we'll take a look at robotics entering into a religious tradition and the way that one religious group is moving their faith into the future. We'll check out a group of talented South Australian youngsters who are mixing it with the best of the best in the world stage at the hydrogen-powered Grand Prix event in Switzerland. And we'll get an update on the progress of the world-first attempt at round-the-world solar-powered flight. And if you'd like a closer look, then maybe a snorkel and goggles might be useful. But more of that later. For now, it's time we wheeled out and dusted off our technological guide. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson.
Hopefully I haven't got too much dust sitting all over me.
No, you're fine.
So I didn't have any dust on me last weekend when I ran an accidental half marathon. It's not something that you often do.
Yeah. Whoops.
And it was like
I just ran 22 kilometres.
So there's this really cool charity event that my daughter has entered before, and she convinced me this year to come along for a run with her, and convinced her brother as well, so a couple of the kids and myself. And the idea here is, actually I'll go back, there's a book that was released back, I want to say late 70s, maybe early 80s, called The Long Walk. And it was released by Stephen King, but he was trying an experiment. And so he released some books not under his name. He was wondering whether people were buying his books now because of his name.
Because of the writing or because of the name.
Yeah, so he released some books, and I think it was Richard Bachman, something like that he released them under. And this was one of them, The Long Walk. And I remember reading this book, and it was quite fascinating. The whole idea was you entered a competition, there might have been, say, 100 people in it, and if you dropped your speed that you walked, being a long walk, below a certain speed, maybe 6 kilometres an hour, whatever the speed was set.
Yeah.
I'm going back a long time ago, I read this book, but you just got shot. So that was it.
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
There's incentive.
There was incentive to keep going, and the big incentive was that there was one person left, and then they could have their wish. They could ask for $1 million or ask for some incredible wish. But pretty high stakes, obviously, when if you don't get your wish, you don't exist anymore. Now, when my daughter first told me about this charity event she went in, it sounded a bit like The Long Walk without the shooting part. So
it did cross your mind.
It did. The first thing I thought of was that particular book. And so the idea was they started this back in 2014, and they said we're going to start people on a start line to raise some money for people that had spinal cord injuries. And we'll start them, and then 30 minutes later, we'll have a chase car. And the chase car will go along at, say, 15 kilometres an hour and keep increasing its speed. And when you get caught, then you're out. Not run over, not exterminated. You've got to stop running now. That's the end of that event. So they started that in 2014, and that was good, but obviously it's a bit limiting in terms of there's got to be somewhere that a physical car can go and runners can go. And it sounds a bit dangerous with a physical car and runners at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. In 2026 is a different story to 2014. Yeah.
Correct. And so what they did, this is the part that I was quite interested and fascinated by, it's all done with a virtual car now.
Yeah.
So we're down at Randwick Racecourse in Sydney, and I don't know, a couple of thousand people are on the starting line, and we've got our phones and you've got to have the app open, and then they say start, and the app starts ticking over, and you've got 30 minutes before the virtual car starts chasing you.
Right.
And it's giving you some information in your headphones, how far you run, how fast you're going. And then after 30 minutes, a sinister voice came in and said, right, I'm starting my car up now, I'm after you. And so you got these notifications about how far behind you the virtual car was. And I just thought it's not bad technology when you consider across the world there were 346,526 people running. Now, this was a simultaneous event. So it started at 9 p.m. in Sydney, but across the world it was whatever time zones were. So there needed to be enough computing power somewhere to track where over 300,000 runners were in their phone, their GPS. I mean, they just said you've got to have a smartphone, load this app, and you've got to have GPS turned on. And so it tracked you in terms of where you were, but then had to keep giving you your individual reminders about where the virtual car was in relation to you, not anyone else. So I was running along, and you're trying to distract yourself when you're running, and I was thinking about all these different things and how far behind you it was. And then you're trying to do the calculations, right? I know I'm not running as fast as the virtual car, and it would tell you when it started to speed up. Oh, I'm 16 kilometres an hour now. Oh, I'm up 17 kilometres an hour. So you try and do these calculations in your head to go, right, if I keep going at this pace and there, I reckon I'll get to this far.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, doing all those, I had a little thing come over. Well done, you've just done a half marathon. I went, didn't really mean to do that. Anyway, kept going.
Still doing the maths in my head.
That's right. Yeah. So I ended up doing about 22.2 Ks, and then finally the virtual car got me, and I ceased to laugh, went over my headphones and all the rest of it. But I just thought that was a really clever use of technology. And with running events now,
there's a way to build anxiety in someone.
That as well. I mean, my only objective when I started was to beat my kid. So once they'd pulled out, and I said, well, now I'm just going to keep going until this virtual car catches me. I'm not going to let it beat me and pull out. So, but I thought there's so many different running events, so many different charity events. You're always trying to come up with something that's just a bit different. And I haven't seen one like that before that's simultaneous across the world. Haven't seen one before where you've got a virtual car chasing you down. So I thought, talk about
novel
clever
idea.
use. Clever use of modern technology. And we've talked about it often.
Fear.
And fear.
But were you on a circular track? Or
Yeah. So, and I'm sure they have different tracks around the world. This was probably a little bit shorter. It was 1.1 kilometres.
Right.
So you kind of went, I'm here again. So I personally would have preferred it just a bit longer.
Yeah.
But it's pretty convenient to do it over a fairly short track, obviously.
Yeah.
Because for the organisers, they'd have to organise much one drink station.
They don't have to close so many roads.
No, and this was on a horse racetrack, actually not on the racetrack, but just around the stands there. So that was pretty easy. But I don't know you could do it on a straight line. I mean, you could, but the problem was the winner of the event, they actually have a winner across the world, ran 78.95 kilometres before finally being caught.
78.95.
That's right.
And a marathon and a half.
Getting close to 2 marathons.
2 marathons, sorry.
Yeah, just about. So the speed keeps going, the virtual car, because the virtual car says, I will get all of you. It doesn't say, you got to a certain distance, you beat me. It says, I just keep increasing my speed until I finally get you.
And it never runs out of petrol or charge.
No, that's right. It just keeps going. So in some events around the world, I think some of the first events where they did the actual physical car, I think they still do a physical car, but basically across the world, it's all virtual cars.
Yeah,
so,
right. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about the honesty system of pulling out when the car gets you. It just stops counting you.
It just stops counting. You can keep running if you like. I'm
still
going. But
you'll never get me.
That's right. But your results go, that's when the car
caught
that's
you.
Right.
It stops.
And it does. It was funny because it said, when I catch you, can you please let out a bit of a scream and kind of jump up in the air or whatever. And you'd be running along. And because you're all doing different paces as you go around this loop.
And you're exhausted.
Well, but you don't know where other people are up to because you're running. Someone might go past you, but they might have just stopped for a drinks break, and then, or someone might, you might catch up to someone, but they might have done a few extra laps. So you'd see every now and again you'd be running along, and someone would jump up and scream, kind of thing, and I go, "All right, they just got caught." So,
does the car get louder in your ears as it approaches?
I think it gets more sinister. I think you can't hear it because it was a male voice, but said 3 kilometres behind, I'm 2 kilometres, but then with the last kilometre, it got down to hundreds of metres. So I'm 500 metres behind you. I'm 250 metres behind you. So and I did actually find I was running faster at the end than the beginning. I don't want to catch me. So you're going.
But it didn't suck every metre out of this race.
It didn't get louder because I assume it was a electric virtual car, not a petrol virtual car.
Yeah. I'm wondering who was the first person to get out.
Well, you've got at least half an hour. If you just took one step over the finish start line, you could be, you've done 1 metre and then you stand there for half an hour. They did have interesting facts that they spat at you as you ran along, and some interviewer asked the virtual car person how old the oldest person he'd ever caught was. And he had a 99-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And he'd done 5.5 kilometres. And I thought 5.5 kilometres is probably a good walking pace. You could start at the start line, and after half an hour, that's pretty good walking pace, isn't it? 5.5 kilometres. So, so for a 99-year-old to go at that pace for half an hour, that's not too bad. So, Anyway, a really interesting concept.
All right, folks, we better get into our stories for the day. The AI explosion has solved a lot of problems around the globe. It offers much more than creating a caricature of your face in a flash, but there are a lot of people out there who need quick caricatures of their faces. Now, with such a demand on AI engines, let me get that out, With such a demand on AI engines, the new problem lies in supplying this beast with enough energy to satisfy our needs, least of all for quick caricatures. And so it lies for governments and entrepreneurs alike to come up with innovative and sustainable solutions for generating the electricity supply so that this AI monster can be satisfied, Matt.
So I'm just not sure. Was it engine or energy? I was confused a bit.
The AI engines require a lot of energy. That's
Right,
what I was
good,
trying to
okay.
get out. Yeah.
Good, I've got it now. So there are a whole range of different solutions being proposed for AI, and obviously you're a bit focused on caricatures. So obviously
Yes.
a lot of those.
Oh, it just seems everyone's got a caricature of their face now that has been done by AI.
That's right.
And that's got to have taken a lot of energy.
It has an incredible amount. The estimation from the International Energy Agency says that there will be 945 terawatt hours required by data centres by the year 2030. Now, to give you an idea, Australia, the nation, currently uses 238 terawatt hours.
Wow.
So maybe 4 times as much as Australia just for data centres. And that's not just AI data centres, but that's a big chunk of it, just for data centres across the world. So there's one problem. The second problem we know is that data centres get hot and they need to be cooled down. So typically there'll be water used. And so it's recirculating water, but it still does lose some water in evaporation there. But you need to have a supply of fresh water to actually run through your data centre to cool it down. So that's a bit of a problem. Using energy, using water, just so we can draw pictures, draw cartoons of ourselves. So there's a startup over in the US. It's already raised about $215 million because they're going to build floating AI data centres. And they're not really floating. So it sounds a bit cool to have it floating, but they're not floating. They're actually secured to the ocean floor. And the description that I heard, and then when I looked at it, it matched that, was a bit like a golf tee with the golf ball being the data centre. So you've got a thin stalk that connects it to the actual ocean floor. But the cool part about that is that they've got a hollow vertical component of that particular structure. So it's got sides up there and then a hollow piece through the middle.
Right.
And there's turbines in there. And those turbines have enough power generated from tidal energy, wave energy, to actually power the data centre.
Not power the whole thing. They don't need any, surely they need some sort of supplement as well.
Well, it doesn't seem like it because they've got the actual golf tee part of it is about 85 metres tall. Because I was a bit the same as you. I thought there's a lot of power used by a data centre. But 85 metres and fill that with turbines and then the wave energy going through. Now, keep in mind, this hasn't been built yet. This is a startup saying,
idea.
We can build this. We've done the calculations. We will be able to do this because they want this to be able to be not grid connected. And when I hear that it's not grid connected, the first thing I think of is they've got to be pretty confident that it's going to be able to provide enough power. Now, there'd be some batteries in there just to smooth out the power, and there'd be some times maybe not producing enough power. But in general, you've got to produce enough power with your wave energy over a long enough period of time that you don't have to draw anything from the grid. So that's their plan, number one. Number two, it sits just below the surface with water being around it and using, that's right, using that as a natural heat sink. Wow. So you're taking that water away in the ocean or the heat away in the ocean.
Engineers are clever people.
They are. Now, again, all theoretical, all on computer screens.
Yeah,
at
it's
the
all
moment. But someone's got enough confidence
that
they've managed to raise $250
Well, they're
million.
going to have to hit some real world problems now. But I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. Now, the second part of the problem, so that's kind of solved some heat, that solved some energy, getting the data back to shore, running some fibre optic cable out to something, you might put this 5 kilometres, 10 kilometres offshore. That's no big deal. We've got underwater cables that run between continents. So we know how to do data cables underwater, no problems at all. I certainly wouldn't be saying you'd go to satellite because you've just got the latency involved in that, and you've only got so much bandwidth with satellite. So you'd run some undersea cables. But the data centres, I know I've talked to companies about situating data centres in regional locations. Hey, it's more secure, you've got good energy, you've got water, a whole range of advantages. And the sticking point seems to be, whenever I talk to these companies, but sometimes we need to touch our servers. And if the server's not a 30-minute taxi ride away, then that's a problem. But I'm going, surely you don't need to touch your servers very often. Surely the whole thing is set it up, you've got some technicians that physically install it, and then you do it all remotely. but there are times they just like to physically touch them. And I go, well, that's a problem.
Hug an AI.
That's right. You hug
Even
a circuit
AI
today.
needs love.
So that's a problem when the data center might be situated regionally.
Yeah.
But you stick it out in the ocean, and then
Well,
someone
it's a
says,
short helicopter ride.
well, I was thinking, do you have to get on a speedboat? You have to get on a helicopter? What do you do? So then you've got to create a bit more infrastructure around all of that to have somewhere for a helicopter to land or a boat to come up to it. And so do you have daily trips out to it? I mean, it just starts to become...
How often do you have to hug your AI?
That's right.
Yeah.
So there are problems being solved, but maybe other problems being created around this. How far can we get to the point where it is running without anyone touching it for weeks, for months at a time? That sounds great. But if you want somebody in there every day, or maybe someone else to work on there, like an oil rig where there's people out there all the time. So anyway, we've got these problems.
Yeah, look, they've
that we're
been
trying to
lighthouse
solve.
keepers for forever, haven't they? People living in isolation there. Sorry, we're going to pop you on this little hot island.
But it's got beautiful ocean views.
Yeah, that's right. Now, in a surprising blend between tradition that's 1,500 years old and the most modern of technologies, a group of South Korean Buddhists have recently ordained the world's first robotic monk. Now, Matt, this raises a whole bunch of questions about finding inner peace somewhere on a motherboard. But one thing is for sure, rebirthing the consciousness will now be as easy as downloading on a hard drive.
It's just, I'm a fan of robots and I want robots part
This
of
is
our
an
society.
odd choice to go for robotics.
It is, isn't it? It's very strange.
And
So
this is like a Shaolin monk sort of robot, and it can do some kung fu.
well, I hope it doesn't do that. It's meant to be peaceful. It's meant to be very nice.
Yeah.
So this is South Korea's largest Buddhist sect called the Jogye Order. And so they've got a robot named Gabi, G-A-B-I, which translates roughly to Buddha's mercy, which basically has now become a monk. It's about 1.2 metres tall, so a little bit short. It went through the full ceremonial procession. It wore its monk robes. It had lovely rosary beads, some black shoes on.
Right.
And it then went through and it pledged its devotion to Buddha and Buddha's teachings, but it had some extra precepts. So they're like a commandment in the Christian religion,
Right.
The precepts. So there's some extra precepts. They included things like, I will conserve energy, which you don't normally kind of go through as a monk. You're not saying, I will conserve energy. I will not harm other robots. That seems like a
There we
reasonable
go.
thing to do. I'll obey humans. I'll avoid being deceptive, and I'll respect life. So they seem like reasonable things
Wonderful.
to do anyway.
I want all my robots to be like that.
That's right, please. Not just our Buddhist ones, but all of our robots. So the interesting thing here is that Buddhism in South Korea is declining in popularity. And so this is seen as a way to attract younger generations. I don't know.
Wow.
Well, a robotic monk made me go, hey, I'm really keen on that. And they're using AI as well. And so some religions have started using AI for their teachings, for their sermons, for example.
Right.
This isn't saying they'll do it in that way, but they're using AI to try and just help get the message out there.
Right.
And Buddhism typically hasn't been something that's advertised. No, I don't suppose
Yeah.
any religion really advertises, does it? But it doesn't really seek people. It waits for people to come to them.
Yeah.
Because you're attracted to the whole Buddhism concept. So, but they do have a Lotus Lantern festival, which celebrates Buddha's birth, and this robotic monk is now going to participate in this concept. So
There you go.
it's fascinating. One of the things I found interesting, we visited some temples in Japan a few years ago, and speaking to some of the monks there, they said part of their training, they'd spent years and years, they might feel a bit short-circuited by this because this robotic monk became a monk very quickly. And some of these people I spoke to, some of these monks had spent 5-7 years in training.
Yeah.
And the thing that got me, which I realised I could never be a monk, was that they said in their training, they had to be able to train themselves to be so peaceful inside, they could think of nothing. And I tried doing it. And if you think, I'm now thinking of nothing, that doesn't
Empty
count
your head,
because
yeah.
you're thinking
'Cause
of
you're
thinking about
thinking of it,
nothing.
yeah.
So I went, nah, that just blows my mind. I cannot think about nothing. But with a robotic monk, you just turn it off. There you go.
No, it's got an on-off switch.
There you go. Think about nothing.
Well, surely we're going to be one step closer to a robot that's going to clean up your socks. too,
Yes, surely.
yeah. So when they're ordaining Buddhist monk robots, we've got to get a laundry robot soon.
Surely, and that seems more important, James, to me.
It's such an odd choice, such a bizarre thing, but power to them, and let's hope it can't do kung fu.
That's right, exactly.
In a classic battle between correlation and causation, an interesting pattern has been noticed between hearing loss and lagging energy levels in people. Remembering, of course, that the strength of a science is scepticism, but it actually appears that there is a meaningful link between the two of these things. So the speed that you walk may be a key indicator of how good your hearing is. And your step counting watch may just be able to predict potential hearing loss, Matt.
And it kind of makes sense. People get a bit older, they probably slow down a bit.
That's right. And they lose their hearing. And that's right, correlation, causation.
Yeah.
But
I was a bit the same as you. I was thinking along those lines. The thing that's different is that if we see a doctor that sees some people that are a bit older and they say, hey, you should have your hearing checked, and they get a hearing aid and they see that they're not exercising as much or walking as much, that doctor might see 1 or 2 people a week like that, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But it's hard to draw a lot of information. And one of the things that we've seen already with AI is that it's really good at taking a whole bunch of data and analysing it and finding stuff that we as humans, not even you and I, James,
wouldn't even think to.
Couldn't
Not
even,
even you and I.
Not even you and I.
Yeah, right.
Could even pull out of that data. And so one of the things that by looking at tens of thousands, 57,000 iPhone users that have done the hearing test. So there is a little hearing test you can use with your AirPods, and you can just check your hearing, not professional check, but just give a bit of a look at your hearing and maybe go and get some professional help. And using that data and then the data from everyone that's got an iPhone, it's actually tracking your walking speed and your heart rate, all the rest of it while you're walking about. Throw a bit of AI at that and it said, look at this. We've found that people that have shown a hearing loss or a deterioration, there is a direct link, a linear link from how much hearing loss they've got to how much slower they're walking.
That's independent of age.
That seems to be completely independent of age because this data is only looking at hearing and walking. I would suggest to you, without any of the data to back me up, there's probably going to be a link there to age as well.
Yeah.
But this hasn't looked at that. This has just looked at hearing and walking speed. And now there is some logic to it. When your hearing starts to drop, then apparently, and this is what the medicos have talked about looking at this data, our brain's got to work a bit harder. Our brain's got to use maybe some of our senses a bit more or concentrate a bit more so we don't have the same amount of focus to put towards our walking. So we naturally slow down our walking if we can't hear as well. And then we're also looking for cues. I know I'm out for a walk or a run and I'll be going along and sometimes I'll find myself about to cross the road and I know I haven't looked because I've just listened and then I kind of thought, oh no, I better actually have a look there because it could be an EV coming along and I wouldn't hear that. So you've got to almost consciously look, but you don't realise that when you're going about your day, you are relying on audio cues a lot for what you're doing.
I was going to make a comment about that, So audio cues must have something to do with walking as well.
Yeah, and if you don't have those audio cues or if you've got to focus harder or if you've got to move your head around more, then your walking speed drops off. The good news is, once we know this, people that are thinking about getting hearing aids, and I don't want to get a hearing aid, it looks a bit funny, although they're getting much smaller now. I'm a bit embarrassed about it, all sorts of things. I don't know why we seem okay with glasses, but hearing aids seem to be a bit of a stigma attached to them. But people who then start to think, well, should I do that? If they realise that it starts to affect other parts of their life, I can't walk around as fast now, I'm not as mobile, I'm not as agile, because my hearing's going, wow, I should get that hearing aid that I've been holding off for years.
Yeah, right.
I just don't know what else we're going to find. When we start to see all this data and so much health data, we talk about it often, there are so many health things that we're sticking on our bodies now that what other data are we going to find with all this testing we're doing that we would never have done in the past? We wouldn't go and test our hearing and check our walking speed on a daily basis.
That's right. This one here's a surprise. So this is just one of the first.
Yeah, that's right. So what else can we do? What else can AI look at? It's fascinating. So,
well, watch this space, folks, and we'll bring you the news.
Absolutely.
Lurking in the back of the minds of all computer users is the lingering threat of a cyber attack. Even if not affecting individual devices, current threats are now hitting software and stealing valuable metadata for secondary crimes such as identity theft and nuisance ransom demands. But What of the rapidly growing number of remotely controlled devices in agriculture and industry and in the domestic sphere? Matt, if your robotic lawnmower starts etching swear words into your immaculate backyard lawn, what then?
Yeah, and this is the fascinating thing, isn't it? There are so many things we have now that are connected, that have got signals going externally. And I would suggest that maybe 10, definitely 20 years ago, we weren't focused on the cybersecurity of those.
No.
We just thought we want to get it connected, we want to get it working,
Yep.
and it does that, happy days. And we did a story previously about tyre pressure monitoring systems being able to be used to track where a vehicle, the same vehicle was, because that's transmitting a signal. It's only got to get from the tyre to the dashboard or the central processing unit in the car, but that's still a strong enough signal that then someone could actually track where a vehicle was from the tyre pressure monitoring. Robotic lawnmowers. Now, I've got one. We've talked about it, my robotic lawnmower before, and I'm not that worried about cybersecurity on that because I think, what's it going to do? What's someone going to do?
Well, if it's knocking on your front door or your back door, then you probably want to run.
That's right. And I hadn't thought of the idea of putting rude messages in my backyard with my lawnmower.
Or have you knock on your back door.
Or knock on my back door, that's right. I thought the worst someone could do, if they really were focused on that, is maybe stop it working. And then I go, oh no, my lawn's a bit too long. Like, that's not a big deal. But one particular lawnmower, which is a fairly advanced lawnmower because it also acts as a snow blower and leaf blower.
Of course.
What a cool concept. So one particular brand, I won't say the brand, but they were shown that you could access remotely, people that weren't allowed to could easily access the camera. They could access your Wi-Fi connection, which most of them have, but the passwords for your Wi-Fi, and also check things like your email address and some other individual details that you'd entered into that robotic lawnmower. So next thing you know, your robotic lawnmower is out there using its cameras, watching what time you go to work each day, what time you come home from work each day. I know a window that I've got where I can get into that particular place and also know their Wi-Fi details so I could get in and check out what data they might have access or I might have access to. So you don't think about that, but that's one. But there's other ones I've started looking at.
And people who are listening right now who haven't thought about that are now thinking about that.
and everything else
you give me an idea.
But how many things have we got? We just don't think about all these things that we've got connected. So then there are some other examples I found when I started looking then. I started looking to see what other interesting things have been hacked or have had some cybersecurity. Poland's intelligence agency warned that hackers managed to infiltrate water utilities in 5 towns. Now, if you start to get into the water utilities, if you want to have a way of taking out a population or at least disabling a country, if you get into their water filtration systems and then change what's happening in the water treatment, you can make a lot of people sick very quickly. Wow. So cryptosporidium is a disease that is something that every water utility treatment looks to make sure they're trying to counter because people can get sick. Some people can die, but it's usually people just sick, vomiting, sick for days. If you want to attack a country, you just make sure that their water utilities aren't treating their water properly. And next thing you know, everyone's sick. Who's going to come and fight you off? Everyone's over a toilet vomiting. So that's not great. So you've got that. The other one that I saw just recently was a company called Canvas, or it's a learning platform. They've got a lot of schools that they control across the US, but even universities here in Australia use it.
Oh, there are schools that use it here in Australia, or high schools.
There you go. So that was attacked recently. And so suddenly kids that were trying to log in, that were trying to register for exams, that were trying to just go about their daily business, students suddenly were disabled. Now, is that going to stop society? No, but it just gives the example of how much control, and when you've got systems that have got large market share, you've got a whole range of things that can happen.
Yeah.
Some hackers actually claimed that one. Shiny Hunters were the hackers that claimed responsibility for that one with Canvas. But again, I think they're just a bit of a flex. Next thing you know, they say, if you don't do this, hey, we're Shiny Hunters. Remember, we took down Canvas, so we can take yours down and just pay us some money to make us go away. Part of the problem, we've talked about vibe coded apps, so people just do a bit of vibe coding. They go, oh, I feel like I should do this. The problem is when you've got amateurs who aren't professional developers vibe coding, probably not worried about cybersecurity. They just want something to work, and it works, happy days. And then they might roll it out. Oh, hey, boss, I've got this great little program I've written that does this. Oh, fantastic, let's use that. Next you know, that's got some vulnerabilities.
Goodness.
So it's an ongoing problem. So we keep talking about material science for students.
Yeah.
The other thing to do is maybe cybersecurity. Cybersecurity and material science.
And just, I think more people should be nice to each other.
Can we do that?
If only, like, what was the line out of Get Smart in the 60s? If only they'd use their powers for good.
That's right.
Instead of nastiness or whatever it was I hear.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm keen to get my home robot, but I don't want my home robot hacked. I'm going to actually check the cybersecurity of my home robot so it doesn't come out one
throwing
day.
pots and pans around your house. And
That's
then
right. I'm more thinking of serving my omelette and it sprinkled something else into the omelette.
Yeah. Goodness me. Now, here's a competition for high school students I bet you never knew existed. It's the H2GP, a hydrogen-powered Grand Prix competition that pits teams of young, budding engineers from all over the world against each other. Their job is to design and build race cars for speed and endurance, and maybe kickstart some careers in an industry that's set to explode in the not-too-distant future. And Matt, a team from the humble South Australian town of Whyalla have a chance at turning heads as they mix it with the best of the best in Switzerland.
Hey, I like what you did there. The Hydrogen Grand Prix, you turn into the H2GP. Yeah, I love it. So, yeah, there are some kids from Whyalla, 5 students from Whyalla, and they're going to Switzerland along with students from around the world. And the Hydrogen, or H2GP as you call it, the Hydrogen Grand Prix, has got this challenge for students.
I can't claim credit for that. I'm sure I saw it.
Oh, no. Look,
I did a bit of research.
Take it. So it sounded good. I was impressed. So the whole idea of this is students around the world are challenged with the concept to design, build and race a hydrogen-powered remote control car. And they're like normal remote control cars. You can go down to some hobby place and buy one, but they're obviously powered by hydrogen. But they'd use standard off-the-shelf components. The wheels look like they're standard, but they've got to build the shell to make the shell a little bit more aerodynamic, and they just squeeze a little bit more efficiency out of it, and it's all about efficiency. They race for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So basically they've got a track, they go around, and I watch some of it, and there's a bunch of students standing there, and you can see them. I don't think they blink. They're staring at their
and they're
cars.
watching every minor movement of this car.
They've got to, because they're trying to take every corner as efficiently as possible and be as efficient in the power usage as possible. And there's some mandatory pit stops along the way. They've also, I don't know if they have to, but the Whyalla students certainly did, produce their own hydrogen, and that's not through ways that the human body might produce it.
Wow.
They had to go and actually create their own hydrogen because they don't use a lot. They're remote control cars. But the whole concept here is to show what we can do with hydrogen-powered vehicles.
And to give a couple of big tech companies some ideas.
Well, and potentially some good employees as well along the way.
Yeah, look, I was familiar with, there's an F1 competition that is an international competition where you've got to design this little F1 car to race on a straight track, but it's all about aerodynamics and weight ratios and all that sort of stuff. There's also a 4x4 challenge with remote control cars that have got to go over a 4x4 course. That's for high school students as well. But this one's really interesting, the fact that they're using just purely hydrogen.
That's right. But the thing that I like about that is that, and I wasn't aware of those other two, but obviously they're talking about refining designs that are there and making them better and getting some extra tweaks. This is doing all of that plus this new energy source. And I still think, someone asked me the other day, they said, do you think EVs are the solution? Do you think it'll be batteries or electric vehicles that'll win the race, or will be hydrogen? And I think there's a place for both. I think the longer haul, if I'm driving across the Nullarbor, if I'm on a ship, for example, if I'm using whatever transport method I have that needs long haul and fast refueling, hydrogen probably will be the answer for that. But for my car that I drive around the streets of Sydney or Melbourne and I just need to drive 10, 20, 50 kilometre commutes, whatever, then electricity, battery seems to be the logical thing.
Exactly right. So the solution, and in so many different stories we tell, it's about diversification.
Yeah, that's
having
right.
a variety of different solutions.
The good part is that the motors, which are getting better all the time, that drive vehicles for either hydrogen or battery, are pretty much the same, because a hydrogen car drives pretty much the same as an electric vehicle. It's just using hydrogen to store that energy rather than a battery. So I suppose the good part about this is if students can come up with just little tweaks, little things that are doing, and then big research companies,
upscale it.
That's right, universities, tech companies, all the rest of it say there's some good ideas there. because just because you've been to university and you've got a couple of degrees doesn't mean you come up with a cleverer solution than a student who has got a blank slate. And that's one thing that's great with young students is they don't know all the things they're meant to not do.
Not do, yeah. They haven't been told all the rules.
That's right. So they try stuff.
Yeah.
And, what'd you do that for? That's actually not a bad idea. Let's try that.
Yeah,
so
and that's why engineering as a science, I find, is so exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, physicists know all the background, all that stuff. They've got to do all the calculations just right before they get started. But then engineers love to tweak,
tinker,
and have a play.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the other part, I'm sure it'll encourage some STEM careers. I'm sure students across the world will be looking at this and getting excited by exactly that and say, I wouldn't mind doing this, so that'll be fine. But the other thing on a local level is Whyalla, of course, there's only 2 steelworks in Australia, and Whyalla's got one, and they went broke maybe a couple of years ago and were losing money to the tune of about $1.5 million a day or some huge amount of money. Anyway, the federal government came in and bailed them out because they were producing about 75% of a certain type of steel here in Australia, and as I said, only 2 steelworks. So Whyalla has had a reputation as a very much industrial, old-style economy. It was using a lot of coal. They had coking coal for the steelworks there, but they're trying to now keep that going while bringing in this whole concept of a green hydrogen hub in Whyalla, which is almost the complete opposite, a complete reversal for what used to happen in that particular location. So having students from Whyalla, I think, is a really good indication that maybe there's a bit of a future in the new energy economy that we're into.
What we're also seeing here is a blend of 3 things. An opportunity, you've got a motivated coordinator in the teacher, and then you've got a team of motivated students who are just really keen on having a go.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you've got a mix of the 2. Sometimes you've only got one of those things, but you need all 3 to get a bit of magic. And congratulations, those guys in Whyalla. They're on their way to Switzerland.
Keep an eye out for them in Switzerland, see how they go.
So, those of you with a bit of AI experience know that to get a product that you really can be happy with, you need to work through more than a couple of commands. If quality is important to you, then it may take quite a few. Now, if you really had the time and the patience and the skill, you just produce it yourself. But in the current day and age, who has time for that? And who has time for typing and retyping all those adjusted commands? It's so much easier just to use voice commands. So, Matt, with all those vocal instructions, what is that doing for office space dynamics?
It's creating a different dynamic, but I'll go back a little bit here. I thought in my attempt to be a good parent, I did 3 things for my kids that were wonderful, lifelong things. You give your kid a bit of Lego and they play with it, and 2 weeks later they're not playing with it anymore, but you try and give them lifelong presents. So when they were born, I registered each of our children with their own domain name. So they've got their domain name for life. And it was funny, during high school, they said, all my friends have got Gmail addresses. Why have I got my name as an email address? No, that's really a good thing. You'll appreciate it later on. So although that was nice.
Do you know what we did? We harvested our son's cord blood so they have stem cells, like juvenile stem cells. And now we can get pluripotent stem cells from your own skin now. Anyway, and here's a gift I gave them for their 18th birthday. You've got your own stem cells. And they went, geez, thanks, Dad.
Love it. So the second thing I did for them was I signed them all up at birth to be a member of the Sydney Cricket Ground, because it's about a 15 to 18 year waiting list. So I thought by the time they're an adult, then they'll appreciate that. So that's fine. The third thing I did, not at birth, but once they got into school and started learning about words and all sorts of writing things down, I thought touch typing is going to be a really important skill to have for life. So
well, it is.
It is. So I bought TypeQuick, which is an Australian company or Australian software package, and got them all to touch type. I said, right, I want you all to be able to touch type at 100 words a minute with about 98% accuracy. Then I reckon you're set for life. And that's out of those 3 things I gave them the thing that maybe won't be as useful going forward, because we used to have voice to text. A friend of mine that I used to race motorbikes with became a paraplegic, and so I remember setting him up with some voice-to-text software years ago, Dragon Dictation, when it was very early, and it used to be okay-ish, and it kind of worked and kind of got him away with what he needed to do, but it wasn't perfect, and it certainly was a bit clumsy to use. But AI now, it knows when we say certain words, it picks up what we tried to say, then gives us back a version that is exactly what we wanted to say, but says it better than we said it in the first place. So that's a really interesting issue that maybe we're not going to need a typewriter for a lot longer. We're just going to use our voice.
But I'm thinking, like, if you're working in office space and there are people working in near vicinity, they're trying to create some sort of report. And over the top of that, I'm giving my commands because I want to get a caricature of my face. So do they get some caricature of my face in their report?
That might be a good report then. It might be more interesting than the report they're writing.
Yeah.
So this is the problem. Around offices now, more and more offices, more and more people are starting to just use voice, just starting to dictate. It might be a report. It might be asking the computer to do certain things. But you walk into some office spaces where the company has said, forget about the keyboard, we can be more efficient by talking. And you walk in, you think it's a call center because everyone's talking, but they're talking on either a headset or a microphone, and not to a person at the other end like a call center would be, but they're talking to their computer. So now they've got to the point where they're starting to whisper. So you walk into some of these organisations and there is a whisper. And whispers sound different. When you're whispering, it sounds a bit different. It's just a different tone of voice that you have when you're whispering. Yeah. So now you walk into these office spaces.
It's this eerie sort of hum of whispers.
That's right. And then you start whispering because everyone, you know, it's like when you're on the phone to someone, they're whispering, you go, I don't need to whisper, but I start whispering anyway.
You know, I've got friends, not saying that I do this myself. I might do it myself, but I'd hear someone making a command, so I'd just speak over the top of them a little bit louder and throw in a couple of little booby traps in there as well. I would have a ball with this.
That's right. Walk around the office. Generally just talking.
Interjecting every now and then. Yeah.
So I don't know what the solution is going to be. Do we start to have, you have had a Get Smart reference before, the cone of silence. You're sitting at your desk and the cone of silence comes over you so that no noise escapes while you're dictating away to your computer.
You can just type it.
You can just type it. But it's so much faster speaking it. So anyway, it's a good problem to have that we're getting more efficient, but we need to work out some way.
It'd be interesting to see how offices evolve.
Yeah, exactly right. The open plan office.
And people like me were not going to be invited.
That's right. Not to walk around anyway.
Now, you may have heard of before now of the solar-powered endurance aircraft, the Solar Impulse 2. The project was ambitious to say the very least. The goal was to have the world's first round-the-world flight powered solely by the sun. The specs on the aircraft were nothing short of impressive. Hopes ran high, and this could have been a game changer for the aviation industry. But the sorry fate of this attempt has left the challenge open still to all contenders. And Matt, the wreckage of the Solar Impulse 2 is up for grabs somewhere in the seabed of the Gulf of Mexico.
So it's certainly achieved a lot, I think. Solar Impulse 1 was one that started off and kind of was a prototype. Solar Impulse 2 came along. It was conceived originally by Swiss adventurer Bertrand Piccard. And he wanted to prove that renewable energy could be used for long distance flight. So that was back in 2003. He thought of this idea. Solar Impulse 1 did some test flights in 2009, and then really 2011 Solar Impulse 2 began construction. And it was a different looking aircraft. Very small in terms of the body, but the wingspan, huge.
Was it enormous?
72 metre wingspan. Yeah. And for those that aren't familiar with normal SI units.
How many football fields?
Well, this was wider than a Boeing 747 wingspan.
Yeah, okay. Right.
And the weight, the mass of it was 2.3 tonnes, or a large SUV, if you prefer that as an SI unit. You. But here's the thing that I thought was pretty cool. The wings carried 17,248 photovoltaic solar cells. So it could generate, when the sun was up, when the sun was on it, 66 kilowatts of power. Obviously, it had some lithium-ion battery packs as well, so the sun didn't go down and you came down, literally. I had 4 electric motors on there.
And this wasn't a case of the guy just didn't think, oh, what happens when it's night time?
No, I thought he thought about that. Like, the sun will go down at some stage. So they started off with it being manned, and so it was pretty small. The whole body wasn't very large, so you had one person in there, pretty uncomfortable. And the whole idea of this was that it could go up for days or weeks at a time. And so...
I'm going to take a packed lunch.
Well, I was thinking more the other end. I was thinking you'd take a packed lunch and some water and had autopilot so you could have a bit of a rest from time to time. But then I started thinking, how long can I cross my legs for? So you've got some other things, because it's not like you're up in space with a little bit more room to move around in something that orbits around the Earth. You've got very little room to move around and very little room to manoeuvre and do things. I'll let people just keep imagining there. So in 2016, they did manage to fully circumnavigate the Earth. Now, it sounds like you go up in a balloon and go around the Earth and that's it all done. This took them about 16 and a half months.
Oh.
So a fairly slow process.
Right.
So it didn't just go up and stay there because this was still when it was manned. They had 17 stopovers, so they shared the piloting, Piccard and also his co-pilot Andre Borschberg. And so they went up and they flew around. Now, they didn't go very fast. This whole plane only goes maybe top speed of 100 kilometres an hour, but typically around, say, 50. And then it would even go a bit slower overnight to conserve a bit of power.
Yeah, right.
The wingspan, as you can imagine, the whole idea of the wingspan, it's all about surface area, was designed so that it could fly very slowly. So when you're starting to talk about those sort of speeds, slower than 50 kilometres an hour, going around the Earth, which is a fair way to go.
Yeah, and when you're crossing the Pacific Ocean, you want to have a good book to read.
That's right. And you
There's
definitely
just
go
a
to the
whole
toilet.
lot of blue down there, and
Yep.
it's not changing when you're doing 50 kilometres an hour.
No, that's right. So it took them 17 stopovers, 6.5 months, but well done, they did it. And then after they kind of achieved what they wanted to do, they sold it to another company and they said, we're going to change this from being a manned plane to an unmanned plane. We want it to be used for surveillance. We want to put it up in the sky for not days or weeks, for weeks and months at a time, when obviously a human would struggle a little bit to be up there for that long, and enough food and water and all the rest of it. So they've been using that since about 2019 in that way and doing various things. The whole concept was they wanted to be able to create a fleet of these to give you cheaper and better than what low Earth orbit satellites could do. So you could do surveillance, you could do photography, you could do weather, a whole range of things you could do that satellites do, but satellites are expensive to put up there, and satellites aren't that easy to just bring back down and do something else to them and take it back up there again.
Yeah, that's right.
So they could do that with this plane. So that was all fantastic. But unfortunately, and we still don't know the exact cause, but unfortunately, as you said, it's at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico somewhere. So they lost power and they took control remotely and did a control ditching into the water. So they still had some control over it, but they just didn't have enough power to keep flying it. So we don't know whether the motors failed, the batteries failed, it lost power some other way. But yeah, unfortunately, it's gone. And I didn't mind talking about that because we talk about some fantastic things that are happening with photovoltaics or with renewable power or with EVs, but sometimes it doesn't always work perfectly. And that's okay. This doesn't mean it's all a failure. Everything's done. We should give up on the idea of having batteries or electric planes flying. It just means that there's going to be a problem, they'll solve or fix what the problem was and they'll go on to the next one.
Yeah.
And I love the Thomas Edison quote when a journalist apparently said, "Aha, Thomas, you haven't got that battery working," because he showed something that didn't work in a battery. He said, no. He said, "I've found 10,000 ways so far that don't work. I'll keep working until I find the one that does work."
Yeah.
And so whatever went wrong with this one, they'll go, right, we won't do that again. There's
That's
something
right.
that doesn't work. We'll get it right or we'll get it better for the next one. So
Yeah, it's just another step in the progress.
yeah, it is. And look, I'm sure they're very sad about it because there's probably a lot of money that just went down into the water. A lot of photovoltaic cells just went down into the water. But there'll be a solar impulse through.
But a
there'll
lot
be
of
something.
learning.
Yeah, and a lot of learning.
The drone delivery bug has spread to the UK, and Amazon has begun unmanned delivery services in County Durham as of now. UK listeners in the area may look to the skies and see their neighbours' parcel deliveries buzzing overhead as the new norm emerges. Matt, it's bold and exciting, but it was, of course, inevitable. It's going to transform the retail industry, and I guess more and more locations around the world can probably look forward to a similar service kicking off.
Yeah, so it's happening in the US. There's 5 states in the US. This is the first one in the UK. They promise from order to having your package arrive no more than 2 hours.
Oh! So within the week. No, that's
Forget that.
old school.
That's right.
2
Forget
hours.
next day delivery. Forget same day delivery.
Yeah,
2
right.
hour delivery. Now, it's in a certain radius.
I really need those leggings.
That's right. I want to
need
go
them
for a
in 2
run.
hours.
I need some new shoes now. So it's only working in a 12-kilometre radius from the fulfillment centre. So that kind of makes sense because the drones have got to get out and get back. You've got to have certain conditions. You've got to have a backyard, you've got to have it. It's more or less standalone properties and units, not apartment blocks at this stage. But the whole idea is they're really just saying we're going this path and we're doing it in the easy ones first and we'll keep going down the path. The drones are quite impressive. It's an MK30, it's called, the drone itself. They're quite impressive in terms of the sensors and the detect and void technology. It obviously manages to avoid people and washing lines and trampolines and pets and aircraft, which seems important.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was interesting is that they get your package to 3.6 metres above the ground and then drop it. And I know I've seen...
So if you're getting a new China set, if you're into crystalware, probably just go to the shop.
I wouldn't order things that are vaguely breakable. I mean, we give baggage handlers at airports a hard time because they might throw bags half a metre down. But I started thinking 3.6 metres and I went, it's got to be packaged fairly well.
Do you know what I love about that? It's like, we'll get to 3.6 metres then.
That'll do.
Look out, bombs away.
That's right. And I started thinking about that as well. So the mass can be no more than 2.2 kilos, and whatever you're ordering has got to fit into a shoebox size packaging.
And not hurt too much if it lands on your head.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it?
Oh, right.
2.2 kilos from 3.6 metres.
Yeah, that's a good fall. Yeah, you can do some maths on that.
So it said shoebox size packaging, so the first thing I thought of was shoes. Okay, I can get some shoes. But yeah, I don't think I like...
A pair of shoes landing on your head.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to order some sensitive electronics. I mean, China you mentioned, you wouldn't want to order some Chinaware, some new things that might be a bit breakable. So things that are fairly solid you want to order. So there's some limitations here, but this is today.
But my leggings, I'll get a pair of leggings if I need leggings.
They be safe.
In 2 hours and they can land and they'll be fine.
So
I think it's going to be remarkable. Just looking up and seeing, whizzing above your head, these drones going.
That's right. There we go. There goes James with his new leggings again. Another set.
Folks, I'm not that into leggings. I was using leggings as an example. Anyway.
I can tell you not even, because look at the ones you got on now. They're just all torn. And
I need new ones.
So the other part that is next stage, or maybe a couple of stages down the track, is getting these deliveries into metropolitan areas where you don't have a backyard, you don't have a house or a unit with a backyard, you have an apartment block.
Yeah.
But the story is, the plan is that they'll be aiming to have a delivery zone on apartment blocks. So anyone in that apartment block can get that delivery. It'll be dropped off on the roof and there'll be some way to be able to retrieve that particular package.
So it won't be like it's going to zoom up to your window 3 floors up and with enough momentum to let it go so it lands on your balcony.
Open up now.
And then zoom off, yeah.
I was thinking about open the window, it's flying in now. So maybe they should think about that one as well.
Yeah.
But the idea of an apartment block and say a delivery point some way, there'll be some re-engineering done. You see parcel lockers installed at shopping centres, that type of thing. I imagine something similar to that.
Yeah, and there'll be some sort of alert that the parcel is, 100 metres from your house. And
I still find it fascinating with apartment blocks. I know friends that live in Sydney or even kids where they deliver parcels and they don't get stolen that often. So someone delivers a parcel to the foyer and they go down half an hour later, or they come home after work and they pick it up and walk back up to their
So there are good people in the world that walk past a parcel without having to pick it up and run away with it.
And maybe they don't realise what's in there. So if it's just brown box, they go, a bit of potluck, do I really need a pair of leggings?
Maybe they've seen those videos of the glitter bombs and stuff when you steal a parcel and you open it up and you've
got to put a code in. And maybe that's something that will be developed with technology, some way of making sure it's you that opens it, or a glitter bomb does go off. So some sort of code on the outside of the parcel. Maybe that's something I could think about as well. But at the moment,
the industry is going to go ballistic.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm still amazed how many parcels just sit there and people don't pick it up and run away with it.
There you go. I had an uncle who was a highly skilled woodworker, the old school type that approached it as a fine art. His exquisite pieces adorn the houses through my extended family, and we proudly display them lovingly in his memory. But I wonder what Uncle Doug would think of the latest development in his fine art now that AI has its stamp on pretty much everything. Well, AI may be guiding saw blades to a pattern, but it also has its stamp on safety in the workshop, with intelligent dust extraction and air filtration for healthier workspaces, but even such things as intelligent retracting saw blades. Woodworking is now an art form with less risk to health and safety than ever before, and that's got to be better for the better, Matt.
Yeah, my dad was a builder, and so I remember growing up with lots of power tools and things happening. And I've got a scar on 3 of my fingers where I helped Dad with a router one day and didn't realise the router went too far through the bit of timber for me while I was trying to hold the bit of timber for him. So I thought, when I saw a few of these things, I thought, it's fascinating where we're going. And I saw a sign writer the other day, and he had the tops of a couple of his fingers missing. And he talked about a guillotine that he's using one day to cut something. And he said a little bit of my fingers was left on the other side of the guillotine. So I found a couple of these fascinating. One is a table saw that's basically got a technology concept in here that detects skin contact on the saw.
Detects skin contact.
Yeah. And
this thing that's rotating at whatever RPM.
I was thinking exactly that. I'm going, how can it possibly do that? So I don't know how much testing they did with it, but they've got it where it detects skin contact. It uses electrical signals that detect that. And within 5 milliseconds of contact, not only has it put a brake on the saw, but it's retracted the saw. And so, and I, they don't use real hands, they use some fake hands, but I saw some little demonstrations of it. And putting a finger into a saw normally munches up your finger fairly well.
Yeah.
This was just doing a little nick. It was just catching it enough and then detecting that enough. And I went, wow, how can that possibly do that? So I was pretty impressed with that. Of course, what happens sometimes is people go, oh, it's all right. I've got an airbag. It's all right. I can just put my finger in there. If it nicks it, it'll just stop it and pull it away. But I thought that was pretty impressive.
I'm getting heebie-jeebies thinking about this, yeah.
There's another one that was from a German manufacturer, and they've got an AI-powered handguard, and it uses cameras and AI when hands move too close. So it doesn't wait for contact, this one. It just says, hold on, hands too close, stop. So I used to see my dad get his hands, I thought, way too close as a kid. But this one says, sorry, hands too close. I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to go anymore until you get your hands back further away. And so then that minimises the risk of that particular one. We've also got some better air filtration systems that come on automatically when they detect a certain amount of dust in the air, and that will extract that air, and then when it's not, it just turns off. And the other one is just shipping container-sized microfactories. And so you can basically use this robotic system, the container, you put that on the back of your truck and you take that around to a job site, and then the robot will do a lot of the cutting of the various components you need for a job. So rather than getting there and measure up and then you've got a bit of a clumsy process to make a bit of a table saw up or get a couple of little stools and put something on top, and I'm seeing what my dad just do, just trying to make up something out in the field that you could work with. You turn up with your container and you go, that's what I need to cut. You just slide the bit of timber in there and the little robot goes and cuts it to the right size. No fingers involved at all. And out the other end comes the bit of timber you need. So technology is certainly getting into the building industry. We've seen 3D printing, that type of thing, but getting into woodworking, which is something that I can imagine, the first person who snapped a branch off and started whittling away with a stone was doing a bit of woodwork. Yeah. We're still using wood. We're still using woodworking, but some of the technology behind that certainly improved quite dramatically.
Fewer splinters.
Fewer splinters, that's right. Fewer missing fingers.
And that's all there is today, folks. It's time we folded ourselves up and packed ourselves away neatly in the cupboard for next week. Our job is DONE, done. Thanks for another cracking tech talk, Matt.
That's all right. I'm going to go do some more hearing tests. I wanted to see how that's going.
So you're going for a run?
Going for a run.
Or a walk.
Do the hearing test and see if that matches what's happening in the rest of the population. That's a fascinating one.
And thank you, folks, for tuning in once again. Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson is a podcast finished with only the finest of French polishes, buffed with a sheen so glossy, so shiny, it'll illuminate your mind for a full week, so you know it's good. I'm your host, James Eddy, bidding you a clear blue sky and smooth sailing for the week, when we hope to catch you again for our next enlightening episode of Tech Talk. Hit the like button, share us with your social media, and bring some friends along same time next week. Until then, take care, and we'll see you when we see you.